Hello, boys and girls. It is Miss M, and I have our instrument poster here to go with the story that we're going to hear today. And some of you have heard this story before. It's called The Remarkable Farkle McBride. And this boy is going to be trying all sorts of different instruments because he is unsatisfied. He is unhappy with all the instruments that he's trying. And so we'll have to find and discover if he is satisfied, if he gets happy with one of the sounds of the instruments. The Remarkable Farkle McBride. Oh, pity the prodigy, Farkle McBride. No matter what instrument poor Farkle tried, whether strumming or blowing or drumming or bowing, his musical passions were unsatisfied. When Farkle McBride was a 3-year-old tyke, all freckly, bony, and thin, he astonished his friends and his family alike by playing superb violin. So that's in the string family. He went riddle-dee-diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dee with all the strings at his side. Riddle-dee-diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dee, the remarkable Farkle McBride. But at 4, Farkle played it no more, in spite of his parents' beseeching. He shattered the records he used to adore. He smashed up his rosin, ripped up every score. He threw fiddle and bow to the living room floor as he shouted, "Enough of your screeching!" So another name for the violin is a fiddle. And you play all 4 of these instruments that look alike with a bow. So we threw that on the floor too. When Farkle was 5, his melodical gift once again bore rhapsodical fruit. The woodwinds inspired his spirits to lift as he rapidly mastered the flute. He went rootle-tee-tootle-tee-tootle-tee-too, with all the winds at his side. Rootle-tee-tootle-tee-tootle-tee-too, the remarkable Farkle McBride. But at 6, Farkle flung his flute into the lake, notwithstanding its lyrical trill. He stamped on the dock till you'd think it would break. "That's it," he exclaimed. "I've had all I can take. That tootling gives me a brutal headache. It's so wimpy and whiny and shrill." When Farkle was 7, a different sound rekindled his musical flame. He became the most expert trombonist around, and the boulevards buzzed with his name. So here's a trombone in the brass family. He went vroom, petty-doom, 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 with all the brass at his side. Vroom, petty-doom, 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 the remarkable Farkle McBride. But at 8, he declared, to his parents' despair, and as everyone else might have guessed, "I can't stand the trombone with its blat and its blare. That racket is more than my eardrums can bear. So return it or throw it away. I don't care. I despise it just like all the rest." So far, he's tried the woodwinds and the brass and the string, and he's been very unsatisfied. So I wonder if he's going to try another instrument family and find that happy sound he's looking for. When Farkle was 9, both his father and Mum were bursting with pride and affection, for Farkle learned xylophones, cymbals, and drums, the entire percussionist section. So he learned a bunch of percussion instruments. He went boom, bash, clang, maclash, all the clamor he could provide. Tinkly bing bong, bumpity crash, the remarkable Farkle McBride. But soon he fell prey to his usual gloom, despite all the praise and the flattery. First a sigh, then a sulk, then a frown, then a fume, then an ear-splitting tantrum that emptied the room. I can't take it, he bellowed, the crash and the boom and the clang and the bang of the battery. So now he's tried all 4 instrument families, and he is still unsatisfied. Poor Farkle at 10, howsoever renowned, reached the end of his musical tether. But then he discovered his favorite sound, musicians all playing together. It happened like this. The conductor caught cold on the day of a major recital. You've got to replace him, young Farkle was told. Your cooperation is vital. So he took the baton and he gave the downbeat, and kaboom, the foundations were shaken. With glorious music, bombastic and sweet, that filled up the hall and spilled into its street. Music that brought the whole crowd to its feet from the instruments he had forsaken. They went riddle-dee-toodle-dee vroom, petty bang, bravo, all the spectators cried. Diddle-dee-doodle-dee-doom, petty clang, the remarkable Farkle McBride. Since that sparkling night, Maestro Farkle McBride conducts all the instruments he ever tried. His happy heart sings to brass, drums, winds, and strings, and remarkable Farkles at last satisfied. And sometimes after you have a concert or a show, people might bring you a present, and a lot of times people bring flowers. And so here's some flowers for the conductor Farkle, and it says, "To Farkle, love Mom and Dad."